friends, I want to specially welcome you to another exceptional time of leadership transformational training on how to influence your world, how to be a light to your world, and how to make impact as a person. The last time I came across your path, I took some time to talk about how to influence the government and the political sector. I also talked about how to influence the business and economic sector. And today I'll be talking about how to influence or be a light in the educational training sector. I want you to understand the reason why we're doing these things and taking them by series is because I believe so strongly that when people are informed or when people are inspired to do a particular thing for their society, for their community, it makes a whole lot of difference in the total sum. I believe so strongly that influencing your society, influencing the educational sector, or influencing the business sector, economic sector, the government and political sector was actually captured from what the Bible said in the book of Matthew chapter number 5, verse number 14, 15, and 16. It says, "You are the light of the world." It's a city that is set on a hill that cannot be hidden. It said, "Let your light so shine before men that they might see your good work." That means try as much as possible to influence that particular sphere. You cannot actually be the light of the whole world, but you can be the light of your world. And your world has to do with the sphere of influence where you are operating on, and maybe where you're working or where you have passion to do something quite different. I want to just give us a little, there are very much explanations and definitions about education or training sessions or exposing people to knowledge, but I want to just read two that I was able to put down. It's going to help you. When we talk about education, number one is that it has to do with the process of receiving or giving systematic instruction, especially at a school or university. The process of giving systematic instruction, especially at a school or a university. But I want to also listen to this definition. I say education is both the act of teaching knowledge to others, the act of teaching knowledge to others, and the act of receiving knowledge from someone. The act of teaching knowledge to others and the act of receiving knowledge from someone else. Education also refers to the knowledge received through schooling or instruction, and to the institution. Teaching as a whole has to do with a sense of transmission of knowledge. So anytime we're talking about education, we're talking about exchange of knowledge and transmission of knowledge to someone else, or receiving a kind of knowledge to enhance any particular thing that you are doing. I want us to understand that schooling is different from education. Someone can actually go to school without having a certain level of knowledge transmitted to him or her. We also have formal education, we have informal education, we have non-formal education, but that is not actually where I am focusing on. You can actually go up on your Google or whatever and get the proper differentiations that has to do with formal education, informal education, or non-formal education. But at all best, you need to understand that as long as there is a transmission of information, transmission of knowledge that has the capacity to improve anybody's life, improve anybody's skill or career, that person must have actually gone through the process of acquiring a certain level of education. And having explained what education is, it is imperative for us to understand that education is critical when it has to do with the development of every society, development of any nation, development of any organization. And there is no rocket science about the whole thing. The reason why we have multinational companies succeed is because they have more educated people working with them than people who are doing their sole proprietorship stuff. The reason why banks and establishments have actually lived or outlived many of those peasants or subsistence businesses is because of the level of education that it is required to manage a bank, to manage a multinational worth billions of dollars like Coca-Cola and other electronic and IT companies. I want you to also know that in the presence of education, there is human development. Without education, we cannot have a certain level of transformation of human beings that will ultimately lead to human capital development or transformation of a particular society. Now, back to what I am talking about today. How then do I get into education? If I have a passion, if I feel, if I have this drive that I have a role to play in making sure that the educational sector of my community, of my city, of my nation, of my continent, of the nations of the world, if I have this vision to see that something becomes better in the educational or training sector, or transmission of information becomes better, what are the things that I need to do for me to get involved and influence that environment? The first thing you must do is for you to have a vision of transformation of human beings through the educational sector. A lot of people get into education because of money. I'm not saying that there's anything bad with that, getting education because of money. After all, you actually spend money for you to acquire a certain level of education. But you know what? You need to have a certain level of vision, human development driven vision, if you want to influence or be a light in the educational sector. Let me just explain this. Our organization, we have a school, we have an educational system. We have a primary school, we have a secondary school, what they call high school in several places, and also we are working towards establishing our university. We also have a leadership institute where we train leaders in all spheres of influence. And I want you to know something, that behind everything that we're doing in these three sectors or four sectors of educational system that we have created, our central team is leadership development, national transformation, raising the people of integrity and standard, creating an environment where people can begin to serve their community. This is one of our vision. In fact, it is the core of the reason why we set up that educational system. We have seen a lot of young people walk into our system. After 2, 3 months or 6 months, their lives will totally begin to change. We have seen those who are less courageous become courageous. We have seen those who are timid become bold. We have seen a lot of people that have walked in, their parents are so worried about their character. And once you step into our system, your character ultimately will definitely change. We have seen Muslims join us. We have seen people that are worshiping nothing will join us. We've seen Christians join us. So we open up our hands to all persons from different worship systems, and they join us, and over time they begin to drive themselves towards becoming leaders. Someone just walked into our system the other day, was like, my daughter has changed, she used to be timid, people can actually take advantage of her easily, but today my daughter has changed. We have seen a lot of people who are stuck, young people who are stark illiterates, they can't understand, but by walking into our system, we have seen them experience unusual transformation. So the first thing you need to do, everywhere you are, anybody who has a passion, you want to start a primary school, a nursery school, a crèche, you want to start a university or whatever you want to do, but make sure that number one, that you must have a vision towards transformation of human beings. The second thing that you must do in order for you to influence or bring transformation in the educational sector is for you to gain the necessary professionalism. in Nigeria, there's what they call Nigerian Teachers Institute. You need to have a license to be a qualified teacher to be able to stand before people. Not everybody will have the money to start up a school, a primary, secondary, crèche, or university, but people can actually begin to influence people by being a lecturer. In Nigeria, for you to be a lecturer, you must have a master's degree in a particular field. And if you want to get into some certain level of research in a particular area of education, in a particular area of course of study, you must go and do a PhD. But if you want to now be an authority, you must make sure that you go and submit quality papers, internationally recognized papers, for you to be a professor. So everyone that is listening to me, you may not have the resources to open up a school just like our organization has, but you need to get licensed. You need to get yourself involved in Nigerian Teachers Council, or the Teachers Council of your nation, the Teachers Council of your region, and get yourself involved. I want you to know that regulations, rules and regulations that are governing these institutions can actually be influenced in the negative or influenced in the positive. People that develop curriculum, I'm talking about policy making, people that develop curriculum for a nation or curriculum for a state, they go a long way to influence in the negative or in the positive anything that goes on in the educational system. You can also join a civil service system in order for you to influence that environment. Like we have in Nigeria, we have Federal Ministry of Education, we have State Ministry of Education, we have West African Examination Council, for those of them that are in charge of all exams that are within the secondary sector in the West African part of Africa. I want you to know that you can actually begin to influence WAEC. You can go ahead and influence the Federal Ministry of Education. You can go ahead and influence the State Ministry of Education by being a permanent secretary, by also being a commissioner for education. These are the things that God's people need to be doing. These are the things that the religious people who are very powerful and intelligent, they need to get involved, because the educational sector determines a whole lot about you. Your inability to speak English, the things you are today is a function of the instructions and knowledge that has been passed down to you by your teacher. If you have a very weak teacher in let's say mathematics or physics, it's going to affect you when you want to get into the university. And you find that many of our students in Nigeria, especially those of them who are in government-owned schools, where a lot of corruption has actually affected people, you know what? You can actually stand out as a person. Not every parent may have the money to pay for a private school in Nigeria or in Africa or everywhere all over the world. You can actually stand out as a public school teacher and make a difference. So you can actually bring those children and take extra lectures. You can actually step out of the normal classes of 8:30 in the morning to 2:30, and then you walk out. You need to go extra mile and get your children connected to the internet. Make sure you help them do their assignments when they are at home, and make sure you appraise them accordingly, so that your children can actually be exceptional people, because they are your children. In as much as you're getting salary or you're getting paid by the government, we can actually make a whole lot of difference in our educational sector. I've said a lot of things in one lump. I've talked about getting involved in curriculum development. I've talked about getting into professionalism. I've talked about getting involved in policy making systems. I've also talked about making sure that you have a very strong vision that is geared toward the transformation of the society. I want you to know something. One of the things that I have seen as my vision or my drive in my quest to become the governor of my state, anytime life, opportunity, and hard work makes it possible, I'm going to spend 60% of everything that I have. I'm going to spend 60% in education, because I believe so strongly that when people are educated, it's going to reduce the issue of corruption. When people are enlightened, when there is a strong transformational transfer of information to people, it will reduce illiteracy. And when illiteracy is reduced, people will know their rights. One of the reasons why several African nations, their leaders, the political leaders, are exploiting people or do not want to invest in education is because the more people get educated, the more people get to know what is going on in that environment, is going to affect their corruption tendencies. So these are the things that I believe that everyone that wants to be a governor, everyone that wants to be a senator, anyone that wants to be a president must begin to give attention. But you know, you cannot give attention to education if you hate education. We find out in several African nations, someone that didn't go to a high school, someone that didn't go to a university, is the president of that country. Okay, what do you expect? The person is not interested in developing people. We have, especially in Nigeria, we have about 210 million people in Nigeria. Majority of them can never or have never had access to quality education. And this is why just throw a little money to them, these people are going to fall like a pack of cards for you. And people continuously take advantage of anybody that is not exposed to quality information. I believe so strongly what the Bible said in the book of Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 and Isaiah chapter 5 verse 13, where the Bible said that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, for lack of education. And he said that my people are gone into captivity because of lack of education, because people can be in captivity of government, captivity of poverty, captivity of quality health care. A lot of people have died because they do not have access to the necessary education that should lead them to the right medical attention. And because of that, they resort to local medical alternatives, and these people have died, and they blame God, they blame anybody. But you know what? The person actually suffered because he or she never had access to quality education. People can't read or write. When someone, the highest level of slavery is when you subject somebody to an environment that he or she cannot read or write. Everything you tell him, he's going to accept. So this is why a lot of people that are listening to me today, I want to inspire you to get into the educational sector. If you want to start a school, you have the capacity to start a school, go ahead and start a school. If you want to be a teacher, go ahead and be the best teacher. If you want to be a lecturer, make sure that you are the best. If you want to be a vice chancellor, strive to be a vice chancellor. Get involved in the governance of your school and contribute your own quota. If you desire, if you have the passion, if you have the drive to see that you are going to influence the educational sector. I love education very well because it has granted me access to unusual boldness. I'm a penultimate student, PhD student in international relations and diplomacy. I've done law, I studied peace and conflict. I studied microbiology with specialty in virology and parasitology. I've also done Christian theology in the postgraduate level. I've also done leadership development course and also done school of ministry. So you find out that at all points where I sit down before people who know more than I do and receive this information from them, it gives me a high level of confidence. It gives me a high level of exposure that is needed to be part of the development of my environment, the development of my society, the development of my state, the development of my nation, the development of the continent of Africa, and the development of the world at large. Nobody meets me without having a rub-off of the fragrance of the fact that I have touched a little bit of quality education. And I want you to know that the world will continuously evolve in the positive, and we will definitely experience a whole lot of changes in Africa, in Nigeria in particular, if a lot of people like you and I go and receive quality education. It's costly to be part of educational process down to PhD or master's degree in Nigeria, but I want to let you know something. You need to go ahead and start taking steps one after the other. It's one of the major sacrifices that anybody can actually make. You know, one thing is that a lot of people cry about the masses are very poor. Most of the poverty that is ravaging the masses is because majority of their children are not educated. I want to talk to every parent that is listening to me. The best investment you can actually give to your children is quality education. It's not cars. It's not the phones that you give to the child. It's not the houses that you have paid for your children. It has to do with the quality education. it's going to be very devastating. It's going to be very, very stupid of you if you spend and give your children all the cars and then they cannot actually sit up to sustain the things that you have taken a whole lot of time and years to develop. So I want to inspire everyone that is listening to me to go into education. Go into education, even though you might make money or do business with it, but make sure that you are committed towards the development of everyone around you. And make sure that you don't charge exorbitantly, but make sure that you contribute your quota. And for those of us who may not have the opportunity to start up a school or set up a school system, do your best and transmit quality information to the people. Model yourself as a right teacher, as a right lecturer. Be part of the policy making system. And I want to let you know that you're going to be a light in that sphere of influence, specifically in the educational sector. All right, my friends, for further directives and counseling and direction as it relates to how you're going to be part of the educational transformation of your community, please do well and connect with us on this platform. Also share the video to your friends and your relatives, as we're going to be discussing further on how to influence the family or marriage system. The family or marriage system. Remember, I've talked about the government and political system. I've also talked about the business and economic system. Today we talked about the education and training system. The next one is that I'm going to talk about the family and the marriage system. Till I see you next time, I remain your friend, BARR.IKENNA, Emmanuel. Make sure that you strive and make sure that you drive the system of the educational system in your environment. Till I see you next time, do have a nice day and God bless you.